What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brando's World of X Games. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so hyped about this next guest. He has truly taken X Games by storm. He's got 3 consecutive X Games gold medals in BMX Big Air. He is the one, the only, our Willy. Ryan Williams joining the show. What's up, man?
Hey, not much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Before we get going, I'm just curious because you're so multi-talented with the scootering and BMX. Like, for people who don't know you or meet you for the first time, they ask, like, what do you do? You've got so many titles. Like, what do you say? What's your first go-to? I do what? What do you say?
Oh man, it's hard. Usually, usually I can kind of tell if it's like a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, I ride scooters and I'm like do the YouTube stuff. And then for like the older people, I'm like, oh yeah, I ride at X Games and I ride BMX at X Games. So it kind of can vary, but I'm basically both a BMX and scooter rider.
You're reading your audience very well. I like that, Ryan. That's That's really good, man. Well, hey, I'm really excited to get you on the show. We're about to get going, but we do this every week with each of our guests, and that is the hot box. 20 questions. How fast can you answer them? And we're keeping a tally. We've got standings. Everybody's competed in it, from Ryan Nyquist to Ricky Carmichael, Mariah Duran, Fabiola De Silva, Travis Pastrana. So are you ready, my friend?
I mean, I'm as ready as I'll ever be, I think.
Okay. Without a doubt. Let's get it on. I'm resetting the timer now. And 20 questions in the hot box with our Willy begins now. Fries or tater tots?
Fries.
Favorite American fast food?
Oh, In-N-Out.
First CD you ever bought?
I think it was the Gorillas. Dark Demon Days. That's it.
Yeah, Demon Days. First, favorite Will Ferrell movie?
Step Brothers.
Great answer. Favorite brekkie item?
Or eggs on toast with salt.
First concert you ever went to?
Oh, I think it was Ultra in South Africa.
How many states are in the United States?
Oh, is it like 50 or 51? I don't...
Yeah, 50. You got it. All right. Kangaroos or koalas?
Kangaroos.
What is your favorite Harry Potter movie, if you have one?
Let's just go to Philosopher's Stone, first one. Right? I think so.
Best thing you can put Vegemite on?
Toast. I don't think you want to put it on much anything else, really.
Where's a place in the United States you would like to visit that you've never been to before?
Alaska.
Okay. Better place to celebrate gold? Sydney, Minneapolis, or Shanghai, China?
Sydney, because I had all my mates there.
Thongs or pluggers?
Thongs are a different thing in Australia, but I'll go thongs.
Favorite pizza topping?
Cheese? Yeah, we got cheese.
Very creative. Favorite American slang?
Oh, I just thought of the word. I don't like y'all. That one, I don't really like that one, but we'll go with that one.
Y'all? Okay. What would your spirit animal be?
This is super weird, but I actually used to think that I'd want to be a blue whale. How weird is that?
Blue whale. That says a lot about you, but we need to unpack later. Favorite candy from the road? Favorite candy wherever you travel? You got a favorite candy?
A zombie chew, it's called in Australia.
Crazy. Okay. And finally, if you were in a wrestling match, who would you want as your tag team partner? Jacko Strong or Harry Bink?
Oh, that's hard. I'm going to go with Jacko just because he's like crazy, I think. A little bit crazier. I think Harry has him on like muscles, but I think Jacko might like bite into him or something.
Well, congratulations, mate. You have completed the hot box 2 minutes 34 seconds. That's I don't want to gas you up too much, but that's about as fast as I can recall. So we'll see where that is in the standings. We will let you know, my friend. Dude, thanks again for coming on the show. Before we get into everything, I do want to talk to you about some history making that you recently made just about a week ago, a video got uploaded of you on your YouTube channel. Talk about this NBD, this never been done trick that you pulled off.
So you talk about the 360 double backflip tail whip?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That one was just like crazy to me. I did it on scooter about, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I'm like, wow, that could work on a BMX bike. But for me, when I ride BMX, I'm like bung-footed, they call it. So I spin to my front foot, which is not like what you usually do on BMX. It's a lot easier like to do certain tricks. But so when I tail whip, I actually stand right foot forward. So I was like, that's the problem here. I like suck at tail whips. Like, even though I did it, whatever, in the trick, I actually, like, at a skate park, if someone's like sets a tail whip in a game of like skate or whatever, or bike, I like will stuff it up probably 5 times out of 10.
Wow. I'm curious now, because I remember, obviously, you've been scootering for such a long time, and it was, okay, how do I, once you started to really jump into these BMX contests, X Games specifically, you had to, how do I translate these tricks? Now that you've really cemented yourself as not just, a podium contender, but like the guy in an event at X Games, that being BMX Big Air, what is your process for coming up with tricks? Do you do it on a scooter first and then figure out how to do it on a bike, or vice versa? Like, what's the process like for that?
Yeah. Honestly, it used to be like, what scooter tricks can I do on a BMX bike? That's when I first started kind of like riding BMX a lot. It was like, okay, what scooter tricks would work? And then I would bring some over and they would work, or some wouldn't work. But now there's some tricks that like I can do on bike that I can't do on scooter. So they kind of like go hand in hand with each other. But basically, because I have my facility and I have a place to like try things safely, I can kind of just go to sleep and like dream up tricks. Some people, I always say this, but some people like dream of, they just think of like sheep jumping fence to fall asleep, count the sheep jumping the fence. Well, I just think of new tricks to try and then wake up the next day and go try it.
That is amazing and wildly unrelatable for most, Ryan. So congrats on that.
I guess, it works for me.
You talk about your sort of, you dream it up and then you go and do it. And now you don't even have to go to the park anymore, because you've created this amazing compound of yours. And I remember, a couple of years ago when we had talked about, Ryan Williams has bought this property and he's going to do all these amazing grand things. So here we are in the midst of 2020. What's it look like now?
It's pretty good. Like, obviously, I've got the flat bag, which is like a massive 50-foot by 50-foot big square, basically inflatable jumping castle. You could explain it to someone by, but basically what happens is it lets air out constantly, so you can jump like 50 feet onto it and land kind of like on your back or on your feet, and it's totally fine. Obviously, you still can get hurt. You still don't want to go out there and just be a daredevil, but I have that, and then I have a way that within 30 minutes, I fold that up, and I have an airbag landing that inflates, and that's a lot harder. But I put like a resin on it, which is like a practice, what we put on ramps. It's like slippery, so that if you fall, you don't stick and burn. And basically, within 30 minutes, I can go from really just practicing a trick tons of times and being really safe, and go straight to a landing within 30 minutes and just try to do the exact same thing and get it done. And that's basically what you've seen when you see me do that 360 double backflip whip. I've done that probably 100 times or so to the flat bag, and then I pulled out the landing, but it still took me like 30 tries, just because it's so many things going on. There's like the back rotation, the spin rotation, and then trying to do a tail whip at the same time. It confuses you.
Did you grow up as a kid strictly, like, what was the first thing you jumped on? Was it a scooter? Was it a bike? Was it a skateboard? What did you gravitate towards first?
So at a skate park, I actually rode rollerblades first, which is kind of funny to say, but I started rollerblading because I think my mum like took me to the rollerdrome, and that's where I was like, I could just take my rollerblades to the skate park, and that was like kind of the only thing I had. So there I was, like, down the skate park, and I was like one of the only rollerbladers. And I think that's what made me kind of switch it up and go to scooters, just because all my mates were riding scooters. And when I was at the skate park, I would find myself like, I would borrow their shoes and their scooter to ride scooter with them, because obviously I had my blades, so I didn't take shoes to the skate park. So then I would borrow their shoes and their scooter to ride scooter with them. And then I'm like, hey, what am I doing? Let's just buy a scooter. And then, yeah, I would slowly like bring both my blades and scooter down the park. And then eventually it grew into bringing my scooter and then a bike down to the skate park. And then, yeah, here I am.
What was it? At what point did you start progressing so much, particularly with the scooters? Because I think that's where you really found immediate success. At what point in the process of like getting scootering at the park did you feel like you were maybe surpassing people that you were riding with, and it was clear like this isn't just a talented kid at the park, this is somebody who can actually, you know, go pro?
Yeah, it's hard to like pinpoint it, but I guess at the start I was just growing up with my friends. Were like, I like had mates like Harley Allen that still rides with me today at my compound, and he was like a rival of mine, and we would go head to head. And then eventually I started kind of like taking off. I think I got like a sponsor on my scooter, and they like flew me to America, and then I was around all these American action sports, like this, I mean, scooter riders. And then I kind of the thing that really took off my career was getting onto Nitro Circus and like touring the world. And then I just felt like I almost felt like I had to show the world what scooters could do. So I kind of felt like I was like kind of wearing scootering on my back, and I was like, whatever I was doing, I was showing like the world what scootering was doing. So that kind of like just pushed me to just be my best, and every single day learn something new or try something new, because I wanted to show the world like what you could do on a scooter, so that maybe I could legitimize this thing that has brought me like so much happiness in my life. So I was just like head down, like let's friggin' just power into this. And then I got a Nitro, and yeah, and I just kept pushing, and I'm still trying to do it, push today.
So did you feel that sort of, as you say, that sort of obstacle of like legitimizing scootering very early on in your career? Like, hey, I've got to prove that this is not just some sort of novelty. Like,
Yeah.
did you feel that very early on?
Yeah, I just wanted to show it, because obviously it gave me so much in my career. I don't even think, if I didn't start scootering, I don't even know if I would like have gotten into the X Games. Like, would I have picked up a BMX bike and thought to do a scooter trick on it? Like, it's kind of just opened my mind up to what could be possible. And then I went out there and did it. So I feel like I owe it so much. Even though I mean, I don't know if I do owe it so much, but I just felt like, how cool would it be if I can legitimize scootering more as a sport? So then the kids below me that are just starting and enjoying it just as much as I am, maybe they'll have like an easier road to where I am. And then that'd just be so good for every sport. Like, it doesn't matter if someone starts on a scooter and then now they're like really good on BMX bike. I think that's only giving to BMX as well. So I think that I just tried my hardest to just show that scootering is just like any other sport in action sports. And that's why it pushed me so hard, and that's why I pushed myself so hard, and I guess it worked out pretty well.
What was it like the first time you met Travis Pastrana?
It was epic, actually. It was like one of the greatest moments of my life, I think, because here is the one, like if not the greatest action sports athlete ever, Travis Pastrana, and he's like the nicest guy. He's like your best friend. And I was so confused, because I was the scooter kid coming on Nitro Circus, and it was like kind of a funny gimmicky thing. But he was just incredibly nice to me, and almost felt like I had known him for so long. And that right there was like something that I was like, oh, I want to be like him even more now, because like I already looked up to him for what he had done, what he could do, you know, on his motorbike and everywhere else. But then to see what he can bring out in the people around him, that was like what I look up to now. It's like what he brings out of the people around him. I want to be able to bring out the best in the people around me too.
Oh man, that's really cool to hear. And you're right. I mean, Travis has that aura to him where sometimes you're almost like, Travis, do you realize how massively superstar you
Yeah.
are, and how many kids look up to you, and but he's just like the boy next door, man.
He's just like,
so
yeah,
friendly.
dad,
Yeah.
circus, man. And you're like,
Well,
what?
it's funny you say that and kind of do that impression, because I feel like, much like Travis, you do have this sort of joy to yourself, when you're interacting with people, and even in the contest, like we see at X Games in these crazy moments, and you're ready to drop in. You've got a certain stoke to yourself, and initially, if you don't know you go, where's this coming from? Is this manufactured? Is this real? And it's clear, like, obviously you and Travis are cut from the same cloth in that regard.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I guess it's just kind of a way, like, I'm obviously nervous. Like, I'm up there, I'm pooping myself. But it's kind of a way to, like, shake it off a little bit, like, just, and you got to realize what you're doing. You're like, I'm riding my BMX bike and I'm like at a competition where everyone's watching and it's like huge and there's so much potential if I do well. And just to be there, I think that it's just such an awesome place to be and to be able to be. So you can't help but be stoked.
You mentioned, getting invited to your first X Games, which happened in Minneapolis. What was that like? How did that come to be? Were you called? Did you get an email? How did that work for somebody who at the time obviously wasn't, competing in BMX events?
Yeah. It was an email. I remember I was actually standing in my garage. I remember the exact moment I like got it, and I'm like, no way. I was like, oh, like, because this is literally. I started watching X Games. It was like this movie called The Ultimate X, and I literally watched. I probably watched it like 500 times. Like I watched it the other day, and I'm like, I remember every moment of this whole movie. Like it's burnt into my brain, and I was like, I want to like do that, But I wasn't talking about like the bungee jumping, kayaking, or the luging. I was like, I want to do like the BMX stuff or something like that, because I think it was like TJ Lavin, Corey Anastasio, Ryan Nyquist. It was like a dirt contest. That one's like huge in my brain. Stephen Murray did a double flip in it, and I was like, this is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to be a part of it. And then, I'd been chasing the dream for a long time. Like I'd been making like a fair bit of noise. And I'm sure that X Games probably heard a little bit of that, but I was like, oh, I want to be in it so bad. And I remember I actually put in the work, because I was like saying, oh, I could do all this stuff. I could go and like do a really good run, but I didn't really have proof. And I was like, why won't they just like let me try? And then I didn't realize this for a long time, but I realized it that year. And I was like, that's why I went and actually made a video on the Mega Ramp. And what I realized was, they're not just adding me into the contest. They're actually taking someone else's spot, and I'm getting that spot. So it's not, I never really thought about it as taking someone's spot. And that's why I almost was like mad and like wishing that they would let me in, because I was only thinking that they were adding me in, not actually taking away from someone else. So then that was like the moment when I was like, wait, Ryan, you got to prove that you deserve this spot. And that's why I went out there and I put in the work, and then it paid off. And for it to pay off, I was like, wow, this is it. Like my dream's coming true. I'm going to the X Games.
Dreams coming true for you. And then you show up obviously in Minneapolis, which is great. At that time, what was your relationship like, especially right out of the gate with some of the other competitors? Was there any sort of animosity or challenge from them? Like, you're not one of us, or, you took somebody's spot or anything like that? Or was it pretty cordial right out the gate?
I think that in the BMX side of things, like all the riders, I think that I kind of knew a lot of them. So there was like no weird things on my end or what I could tell. I think it was more that just like I was like the first scooter rider in X Games. So it was kind of like people were like, whoa. Like I kind of broke the ice, I guess you would say. And I was like the one guy in the athlete lounge with a scooter.
Right. Because you're not going to go to X Games and not bring your scooter, right?
And not saying that everyone didn't have a goal to say scooter when it was in the lounge. I was just the first one to bring one.
We always wondered whose that was. So obviously, so you compete in that first X Games in Minneapolis for you, and we saw the trick prowess for sure, especially over the gap. You just were having trouble with that quarter pipe that first X Games, right? I mean, that was just like, it was crazy, because I'm sure leading up into that, you had all these full pulls and you were ready, and then you get on that stage, and it must have just been such a struggle for you mentally to just not land those runs.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was like just so excited already that I was at X Games, and that's
Right.
I think the first run I kind of just I don't remember what I did over the gap. I think I might have done my nothing front bike flip, and then I just did like an air, because I was like, I just got to get one run in. Like, you got to get one run in at least and roll away. And then after that, my idea was always to do front flare, which is like, obviously that actually eventually maybe get a gold, but
Right.
at the first one, I had never tried a front flare on a vert ramp at all. Like,
Wow.
well, actually, that's a lie. I've done it. I did it at the Woodward vert ramp, which is not anywhere near the same height. So I was like, what's going to happen? Who knows? I think I had done like only a handful of tricks in airs at there's a mega ramp in Melbourne, actually. Shout out to the Mega Ranch. That's where I actually tried. So I could do flares, but I'm like, flares aren't going to get me, where I want to be. So I was like, I got to try something new. And that's where that front flare came out. And I went so big when I did it my first time and just exploded. And I remember being really like hurt, but I was like, oh, damn, I'm just going to keep trying. And yeah, it didn't come together on my first one, but that only just made me like hungrier for the next one.
Yeah, and that's that now has become really a staple of your Big Air runs, is seeing these flares that you just send to the moon off that quarter pipe, and you can see it in all of your gold medal performances. It's almost as if when some guys you would think have gotten as high as they can early on in their first couple runs, it's like your amplitude actually seems to like increase with each attempt, and that's so crazy.
That's because I don't put my foot in the wheel for as long. And that's kind of what I tell myself. I don't really have an option. I only get 1 second to decide how high I'm going to go. So what I do is I obviously land, and I'm like, all right, chuck your foot in. And it's like, well, this is how much you're going to break. Because I only get one chance to like figure out how fast I'm going to go, which is, I kind of like it, because then I'm committed. I'm not like second guessing like what I'm going to do or how fast I'm going to go. I just know that, all right, this is how much I put my foot in the wheel, and I should probably go this high. But I think it was in Shanghai that I didn't even put my foot in the wheel. And that was the scariest. That was real scary. But I knew that's kind of like what I had to do to take the win.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Shanghai, that was an amazing moment, and that was really cool. Watching you win that first X Games gold medal. In addition to it being your first gold medal, it was, I believe, I don't know if it was the first event that was contested at X Games Sydney that year, but you were the first Australian to win gold at X Games Sydney, and that must have just been an unbelievable moment, and certainly a terrific celebration, I'm sure, that night with all your mates in town. But just, yeah, after all the work, and really only your second X Games contest to win gold, that must have been just magical.
It was really special, because I just knew it was almost like, I went all out in Minneapolis, and then it didn't really come out the way I would have liked it to. And then I was like, well, you know what, like maybe it's a blessing. Maybe like this can be, I'll have I booked a hotel, and I flew like all my mates up. I flew like, I think it was like 7 or 8 of my mates to Sydney, because it's only like an hour flight, and I had my whole family there. And it was like, yeah, it was a really special moment. It all really come down to that front flare. I just wanted to get that front flare. And then I think it was my first run. Like, I didn't do it very big, because I was like, obviously didn't want to go out there and just bust myself up. But I remember rolling away, and I'm like, whoa, like, here we go. This could be it if I can put it all together. And then, I mean, everyone else had like the craziest runs ever. And I was like, oh, well, as long as I can just do my best run, like, I'm just going to be so stoked. And then I was like first, and it was like, yeah, it was like crazy.
Yeah,
it was a crazy day, and like it was crazy. And then that's when I made this. I actually now ride to the event every single time, and that's kind of been my what do you call it? Like my ritual is I ride my scooter to the event of the day of the competition, and I've done that every single time after I did it to Sydney X Games.
Really? Oh, that's crazy. Now that, well, hey, it's a gold medal routine. It works, man. I call it superstitious, call it whatever you want, dude. It's clearly working.
Yeah, if
but
it's working, don't stop
it. So obviously that's an amazing contest. Real quick though, I just want to make sure when you flew your friends in, did they stay in Sydney or did they stay in Parramatta? Because I know we all stayed in Parramatta, and I wish I stayed in Sydney. I just want to make sure you took care of your boys. And they stayed in Sydney proper.
I was like, where are you talking about? You're talking about Parramatta.
Great question. Where am I talking about? I thought the same thing as I took the shuttle every day to the venue.
No, you call it Parramatta.
Parramatta. Oh, it's Parramatta.
Parramatta.
Sorry, I don't speak the language. I don't speak the language.
Yeah, that's all right. I wouldn't expect you to. No, we stayed in an Airbnb like probably a kilometer down the road, so it was easy.
Anyway, fast forward to Shanghai, and I think like Sydney was great. Like you said, you put it down early on in the contest, and then kind of everyone was sort of chasing you, and then Shanghai might go down as the closest finish we've ever seen in BMX Big Air, and it looked like it was yours for the taking once again. And then Vince Byron, who's been trying to win that event for like 40 years, puts down his best Big Air run of the day. And the judges give him, I think it was like a 91. So he leapfrogs you. Yeah. Right? And now all of a sudden, you're kind of like in uncharted territory. Like, damn, I was already like, this was going to be like a celebratory run. Now you got to throw something down huge to get that goal.
Yeah, I think I know the score off by heart just because it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, because I think I had a 91.33 and then he got a 91.66. And I think I think it must only go up in like 0.33 if I'm correct. Because I think, he beat me by like 1 point. And I'm like, because I think it was my second run. I did like, that was the run I was planning to go and do. Like that was like, no, this is the one I'm going to go do. I actually thought of it I went in a think tank for the first time ever in America when I was on tour. And that's where I was like, come up with the idea to do that run. So it was like a front flip, inward bright flip, which is a scooter trick, into the front flare, like as high as I could go. Well, what I thought would be the highest I would go. And then I'm like, yes, this is it. And I think my third run, I even didn't, like I kind of, I backed off. I didn't do like a better run because I'm like, that was like it. That was the one. I'm stoked.
You left the door slightly ajar. Yeah.
And then as the door was closing, Vince was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Damn it!" Like he freaking what did he do? I think he did cash roll tuck. He did a cash roll no hander into like the biggest 540 flare.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I was standing up like, oh man. Obviously I was going crazy. I was like, that's insane. Because really anyone can beat you at any time. But I was just like, I was convinced that was like what I was going to do. I was like done. I'm like, that's like what I can do. And then I guess something in me was like, you see it in the footage. I'm up there. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to not touch my brakes. And I was like, that's what's going to win. I know that he beat me by 0.33. What I need to do is not touch my brakes at all. As long as I go higher than what I did before, that should either draw me or put me above him. And I'm like, here we go. Let's just go. And I ended up going like, they didn't have the measure. The one thing that bummed me out so bad was they didn't have the measurement.
Well, I'll tell you what, you didn't need the measurement off of that, man, because you flew. And Vince looked great. Obviously, he was wearing that highlighter yellow polo, if I remember correctly, high res. You weren't missing Vince in the air, but you left no doubt about it on that.
Yeah, I was stoked. And actually, the thing that made me the most stoked was Michael and Morgan Wade after, because they were like, because they're the dudes that go like, and Dougie, sorry, and they're the dudes. Well, everyone goes high, but those dudes are like
Sure.
the dudes, you know, that blast. And they came up to me and they were like so stoked that it was so hard. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, all right, boys.
You obviously, but you knew it, right? Because it was like, as soon as you landed on the flat bottom, you were like, you threw your helmet, you were up to the gap. It's like, you had that feeling, right? Like,
oh yeah, well, I knew that I didn't touch my brakes, and I was like, it's a really blind trick though. So it's like, I only see kind of like, I see kind of at the start, but not really. And then what I really see is when I'm coming down, and I'm like, it's almost like I'm a bullet coming up the coping. And if it feels like I'm gonna case, that's usually like the best,
right?
So because it's so blind, and I'm like, all right. And then I just remember like being so smooth, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I had to land like sitting down because there's so much, you know, like, oh, I don't know, you might not know, but when you land on the mega quarter, if you go high, like when you land, it's hard to even like stay standing up when you land because there's so much G-forces like coming down into the ramp. So I knew that I must have went pretty big by how heavy I felt on my bike.
So during that contest and at the end of that contest, because I called it with Scotty Kramer, and we both were just like, now that you have like gotten a taste of winning gold and you've done it twice over and you're doing tricks that no one else is doing, we speculated at the end of, I remember after, you know, we saw you put the gold medal on and celebrate, you know, I think Scotty and I both were saying to each other on air, like, who can touch him? Because you're talking about Vince Byron, who's one of the most decorated riders in our field, who's been trying to get that gold medal, finally puts a run together. And there you are, not only doing tricks that no one else is doing, but now you can add Mr. Clutch to your resume, because like when your back's up against the wall, you're delivering. And we speculated like, who's going to like get this guy? And then fast forward last summer to Minneapolis. Yeah. And if that was maybe the closest finish we've seen in a BMX Big Air final, perhaps last year's contest was the best pound for pound entirety of a contest in that discipline we've ever seen between yourself and, as you said, Morgan and Michael. I mean, you guys absolutely put on a show. Now, you won gold. You did, again, something we've never seen before with the backflip roll-in, which I want to talk to you about. But just the feeling of, could you feel in that contest that the air, there was something different, man, because it just seemed like it was contagious amongst the entire field.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, ever since I have been in the contest, I felt like that one, like the last one was just, it was just nuts, the level of riding. Obviously Foster, I think Foster, that's when he hurt his leg, but like up until that point, everyone was like throwing down so hard. I think everyone kind of got like a decent run in, and then Morgan and everyone else could like, Morgan's trick was like, it was almost like bittersweet. I was like, damn, man, because that was like the craziest run that I've seen Morgan do. And it was like so perfect. And I was like, how, like, I just have to let it all out now. I think actually that it was the second run that I flip dropped. And it was after Morgan did that, because I was like, okay. I was like, part of me was thinking, should I do this flip drop? Because I had never done it before. And then that was like the deciding factor. As soon as Morgan landed that run, I'm like, this is like the greatest thing ever to be a part of. And I'm like, I have to just do this.
So you had you done it before in an airbag? Like, had you ever practiced that before?
So the only place I was trying to do it was off like it was at a local indoor skate park called Ramp Attack. It's like an hour drive for me. And one session, I knew, because I can do it on scooter. Like I can do it on scooter into like a normal ramp. So I was like, I know kind of what to do and what I'm going to kind of see. So I went to an indoor skate park, and they had a drop, but it was only about 3 foot. So I'm like, this isn't going to help me at all. Like I could spin this to like my face. And then we got like I talked to him. I'm like, I really want to do this at X Games. And they're like, oh, what can we do to help you? So they end up getting like a sub box, and I like screwed the sub box in. So it was like another 3 foot higher. and then I was doing like off a 6-foot drop, and I'm like, I kind of remembered that the drop was, I think it's like it's a huge, it's obviously like 10 to 15 foot at actually X Games. So I'm like, if I can spin it off here and like be not too bad, I think that at X Games I'm gonna have that little bit of extra time, and it's gonna come around. And then so I did like an hour of like just flipping and just land on my face, basically, because it's not the biggest drop. And then, but I felt kind of like comfortable enough to that if I knew I was going to make the choice to do it, I wouldn't just be a daredevil. You know, I'm not ever going to go out there and I'm not a daredevil. I'm just putting risk over reward. Like what is better? And at that time, the reward was worth the risk.
Yeah, as you said, you're not just going out there to be a stuntman for applause. You're going in there with some strategy involved. So that's one of the heaviest things we've ever seen in any contest. I mean, what was the nerves like for that? Like getting ready to drop in? I mean, how scared were you? Were you scared at all? Were you just like feeling this like zone? Like what was going through your head right before you did that?
I was 100% in the zone, because obviously I had jumped into I think I actually jumped into it for the first time, maybe 3 days prior, just during practice. And that was for the speed, because the problem with what I was thinking, it was like, okay, I can try this and I can jump in, but I have no brakes. So it's not like if I'm like pedaling in, doing a backflip and then landing like 15 feet down or 10 feet down, am I going to be going slower or am I going to be going faster? Am I going to over jump the jump? Am I going to not jump far enough on the gap? And that was like the big question for me. So it was like, I didn't really know. And that was like a really scary part for me. But the most scariest part about it, what I was like worried for the whole time, was the fact that if you turn left or right on the mega ramp, like there's nothing catches you. There's no, even if you're standing on the mega and then you're just pedaling into the quarter, there's no, if you trip off the side, like you're falling off the side. So I was like, if I don't land straight, or if I like put my butt in the wheel or anything goes wrong, I slip a pedal and I turn off, I'm doing the biggest street gap ever at X Games. I don't think it's going to end well. So that was like the thing on my mind, but then it was just time to do it. And I just was like, you seen on the thing, I'm like, this is for Dave Mira, because that's what inspired me to do it, because he was one of the first guys I ever seen. I think he was the first guy I ever seen do a flip drop on a bike. And I'm like, this is a perfect time to dedicate this to one of the legends of BMX. And I'm like, give me the strength, brother. Let's go. And I just, I just sent it.
It was a good time to send it. As you said, Morgan Wade will still say to this day that run preceding what you did there was his best run he's ever done, which is really saying something, because he's won that event before. Yeah. So I say all that to say, and then it was amazing because then obviously him and Michael brought out a ladder. I don't even know where they got that from. Yeah. And they were having fun with it. And then all of a sudden it was like, as you said, James Foster, who had won this event a couple of times, had gone down, and this event could have very easily had the air sucked out of it. And it just felt like the vibe got raised by you guys sort of collectively. And I also saw the joy, particularly with Morgan and Michael, who are, two of the elder statesmen in BMX and certainly of that event, like raising the level of their riding. Like, I think they were really impacted by what you had done previously. And like, they want to have the same type of fun you're having, and also, go for the moon the way you were going for it. And that was so clear watching that contest.
Yeah, I think actually they have inspired me more than ever. I think they're kind of like the godfathers of this of Mega. And when I'm there, when I'm in practice, they're the guys I'm like watching, like going, wow, look what these guys can do, because they ride that thing like they literally are having fun. And it's like that's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, is for someone to ride a 27-foot quarter and be like legitimately having fun. Because I'm still at the point where every single time I hit it, I'm like, do this, don't do that, like do everything. I'm like hyper focused, and they're just like, I'm going to jump a ladder into this, and then we're going to do tandem inverts, and I'm just going to double whip one hander like I'm a cowboy, and I'm going to do it higher than anyone even aired today. And it's like, I just don't know. They're just insane the way that their mind works, and they can just like have fun like that. And I really like inspire to be like that. Hopefully one day I can be in the mega ramp contest and being going, oh, maybe I'll jump a ladder this time. Hey, Ryan, hold this ladder for me. I'm like, all right, ladder match, bring it on, WWE, let's go.
From the rafters. I'm curious with COVID-19 obviously impacting everyone globally. It certainly has halted contests like X Games, which has been unfortunate and certainly slowed down probably your opportunity to not only compete in contests but go on tour. But you have such a huge social following, but certainly on YouTube, as you're closing in on like what 1.5 million subscribers. So I'm just curious, given the last 6 months and how greatly life has changed, I bet for someone like you, it's allowed you probably more time at home to churn out even more content than you probably would otherwise.
Yeah, it's just given me a lot of time to like obviously commit to YouTube a lot and just trying to do my best on that platform. I only ever started it because I just knew how much of like it kind of has a good impact on the people that watch you. Like they kind of get motivated, and I could see that because I'd like made a handful of videos, and then like I think it was like maybe I'd made 100 videos. I'd been doing it like a year, and then I would do Nitro Circus, and I would have hundreds of people after the show go, oh, I remember this part of your video, you did this and that, and it influenced me. It made me want to go out and ride. And I'm like, this is crazy how much this is like really influencing people to go out and, motivating them. And that's what like kind of sparked it for me. I couldn't believe how much it really helped people and like how stoked people got on it. So that's where I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to try commit to this and do it more often, because I don't know. I just like the way that it motivated people, and that I don't, to be honest, it's like hard for me to hold a camera in front of my face and like speak and like, I don't know, try to make really good content for everyone. It's hard for me because sometimes you just want to like, hang out with your mates or hang out with like pros that I look up to, and I don't want to like stuff a camera in their face. But if I can just deal with that, I know that it's going to help all the people that watch it rather than just help me, because all I'd be helping by not doing it, not filming it, is myself. And I think that, I don't know, I guess I see that and I'm like, okay, you got to just do it, because then other people can be stoked as well.
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting spin on that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So what's I don't know if the question is what's next for you, or ultimately like what is it that you want to achieve? Like, is there some grand plan or something bigger? I like, and like we said earlier in the conversation about Travis Pastrana, it just always seemed like Travis was never satisfied. Like he's always trying to outdo himself or think of things in such grand plans. And I feel like I get that somewhat from you as well. Is there something bigger for our Willy that you haven't done yet that you're hoping to do or would like to do?
Yeah, I think that that's where like this compound, like our Willy Land, which is what I'm building, is like, I guess that's kind of like what my goal is. Excuse me, is to just like maybe create a place where people can come and like better themselves, better action sports, and just, I don't know, then I can kind of like live vicariously through them. Like I'm sure Travis is stoked to watch me win X Games, and that's kind of like, well, I feel like if one of my mates or anyone that came to my compound, they did better because they came to my compound and could practice and safely like get better, I feel like that I would just be so stoked on that. Like I would be so content if I could just help people be the best they can be, and then also obviously get better myself. And for me, it's kind of just like keep going, like rolling wherever this is going. Just keep going with it, because I'm enjoying every day of my life, and it's so much fun. And I love being at X Games because I'm literally like, I'm like a super fan of action sports. I'll watch any X Games event. I'm like all in. I'm like, I know who's skating. I know who's in this next event. I know who like I think's gonna win, but I know who could potentially win. And Like I'm just a super fan of action sports, super fan of X Games, and I'm just stoked that I've kind of like set my place at the X Games now, that I can always go and always be there and always, have the wristband that lets me go and watch everything like right up close. And that's what like stokes me out. And I just can't wait to get back to X Games and like throw down and then watch everyone else throw down.
Who were you most excited to meet when you came to X Games, whether it was your first one or second, third, fourth? Which athlete were you like just absolutely stargazing when you got to meet?
I still haven't met, like I still haven't sat down and or talked to Tony Hawk, which is like the biggest bummer, because like I've watched every single like one of his things, and like I've played every one of his video games. I'm like, I haven't met him, even though I've been in the same place so many times. I've just never met him. So Tony Hawk is definitely one that I really, really want to meet and just say what's up. But I think one that caught me off guard, the last X Games, was Danny Way came up to me and he was like, wow, that was so sick. And I'm like, dude, you are insane. And like, that's another thing that I kind of look up to, doing things that maybe like what Danny Way did and Robbie Madison, like those crazy, like he jumped the Great Wall of China. I'd love to do something like that and like do a world's first over between two buildings or something.
I can see that. That's cool that you got to share that with Danny, because he truly is the godfather of Big Air, truly. Yeah. And he just, similar to Travis, just always has this, even now, this thirst to like do things that have never been done before. So that's cool. That's cool that you and Danny got to meet up. That's awesome.
Danny Way's like so shredded too, and he's like, I was like, wow, how are you like? I mean, he's not old, but he's just like,
no, it's psycho. The older he gets, like the more fit,
the less body fat he gets.
It's unreal. Yeah, age is going this way and body weight's going this way. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for the time. Before I let you go, though, dude, give me a little tour of your studio here, your trophy room. This is amazing.
So this is like my streaming room, but my friend's been living in here for like the past 6 months, so I had to clean up a little bit. But we got some medals there. We got the X Games ones here, and I just like obviously I didn't set this up just for this. It's always set up like this, but I thought it'd be a perfect background for our conversation.
Yeah, I wish I had the type of accolade room where I could just have a homie crash there spontaneously like you got. That's amazing. I wish I could show you around my action, my Willy land, my big compound, but it's like 20-minute drive, so it might take a little bit. All good, man. Well, we appreciate you letting us in your trophy / streaming / guest room. Have a great day, Ryan, and man, we really appreciate the time.
Hey, thanks. Have a good night as well.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
See ya. Peace out.